What was on the banquet menu for Japan's emperor? So as many of you will know, the Japanese emperor and empress are over in the UK at the moment for a 3-day state visit, and for the first evening on Tuesday evening there was a lovely lavish state banquet hosted by King Charles, and Queen Camilla was there. Many other royal family members were there, and they hosted the Japanese emperor and empress. So this BBC article actually goes through what the menu was for the Japanese emperor at this banquet. And, King Charles greeted his guests in Japanese as the Emperor and Empress of Japan were given the full splendour of a Buckingham Palace state banquet. The king toasted Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako with a message that was translated as "Welcome back to Britain." The dinner itself included poached langoustines, basil mousse, Cornish turbot, which are those fantastic massive flat fish, quail eggs, and to top it off at the end, sorbet with peaches. In response, the Japanese emperor spoke of how much he had enjoyed being a student in Oxford as a young man, and they both spoke about this 400-year connection between Japan and the royal family of Britain when, they had these bilateral relations 400 years ago. The state banquet, which was in this massive ballroom of the palace with its elaborate table settings, chandeliers, and flower displays, is a centerpiece of a classic British state visit, and of course its soft power with the sorbet. With the general election campaign taking place, of course, though, there was also a lot of interest in the politics of the seating plan. Indeed, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak was not on the top table, which was instead occupied by senior royals, including the King, the Queen, Prince William, and the Japanese royal couple. And we also saw how the Japanese Emperor and Empress are not going to be making a visit to 10 Downing Street because of the general election campaign as well. They will not be meeting with the Prime Minister or the Labour leader. So, of course, there's going to be lots of small talk at these state banquets, and one of the interesting seating plan arrangements was where the king placed the Labour leader, or where the organisers placed the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, and he was actually sat next to Sir Clive Alderton, who is the private secretary to the king. So that is a very interesting seating plan. He was going to have some amazing small talk with the king's private secretary here, I imagine. Both party leaders are actually going to be taking part in a TV debate on Wednesday night, so they were probably going to have to forego lots of the alcohol that was there, the expensive alcohol. But putting that aside, there are some very interesting politics to do with these seating plan arrangements each time there are these state banquets. And people also listen to the music to hear out whether there are any messages in the music, hidden messages in the titles of the songs that are played, or indeed in the lyrics of the music that is played. And in the background, they were listening to I Don't Know How to Love Him, one of those songs, Skyfall, and they can't take that away from me. So take from that what you will. I'm not going to suggest anything myself, but some of the titles of those songs are very interesting. But going back to the king, his speech talked of the close friendship between the UK and Japan. I mentioned this 400 years of close relations with the Japanese and the British, and the king said, "Ours is a partnership with deep roots in areas of science, culture, defence and trade." He also referenced some of the Japanese contributions to pop culture, including the Hello Kitty brand, and King Charles actually said the Pokemon phrase, "gotta catch them all." King Charles actually said in front of the Japanese emperor, "Gotta catch 'em all," and he was referring himself to his attempts at fishing, and then he went on to reference the Wales family and his grandchildren and how they would be referencing with that phrase the actual Pokemon games and catching the Pokemon, but he is just trying to catch some fish. So in response, Emperor Naruhito emphasized the importance of the two countries striving for a, quote, true mutual understanding, and appeared to refer to previous wartime conflicts when he spoke of building friendships after times of great difficulty. Of course, Imperial Japan was on the other side of the conflict to Britain in World War II and attacked America and etc., attacked British colonies in East Asia. So everyone will know about that, but they spoke of rebuilding these friendships after these great difficulty times. So the Emperor and Empress also were on the first day of their state visit, including a ceremonial greeting on Horse Guards Parade. And in the blazing sunshine, they were welcomed by the King and Queen before taking the traditional carriage ride along the Mall to Buckingham Palace. The Empress wore a face mask because of her horsehair allergy, so if that's why you might be wondering why on earth she's wearing a face mask during this event, it's because she's allergic to horses. The Japanese royals also brought symbolic gifts with them, a black lacquerware box for the king and a brocade handbag for the queen, plus a framed photo of the emperor and the empress for the king and queen. The lacquerware was a reference to this year's Noto Peninsula earthquake, with this type of design being a traditional product of Wajima City that was affected by the earthquake, and I'm pretty sure King Charles also sent out a message to Japan after the earthquake, sending his condolences. King Charles, in response, gave his guests a pair of silver and gold beakers, and although more normally associated with a drop of whiskey, he actually gave a bottle of Glengarioch, which is diplomatically from a Japanese-owned Aberdeenshire distillery. So he gave the Japanese Emperor and Empress whiskey from a Japanese-owned distillery up in Scotland. The Queen then presented Empress Masako with a handmade fan incorporating good luck symbols. In the next few days, the Japanese state visit will continue, with the King and Queen hosting a lot more events across the 3 days. We've already seen, of course, all of the magnificent ceremonial entrances, them coming up the Mall and them having this wonderful state banquet. It's such a shame we couldn't see Catherine the Princess of Wales, as she always stuns at these state banquets, but nevertheless we got to see Prince William shining and the King and Queen shining there as well, hosting the Japanese Emperor and Empress for this wonderful meal. In the next few days, this diplomatic charm offensive will see the Japanese visitors brought to the Francis Crick Institute, Kew Gardens, and for a nostalgic visit to the Oxford colleges, where both the Emperor and the Empress both studied at Oxford. As the King said in his Japanese toast, cheers, or kanpai. So lovely to see this. The King has been recovering remarkably well from his cancer and has been responding really well apparently to the treatment, and he's really turning a corner. And of course, the King being an absolute workaholic, he is jumping right back into royal duties. He's been to Ascot, he's been to Trooping the Colour, he's been to all sorts of events recently, and this most recent state visit is just showing how the King is really stepping into his role very, very well indeed. We will have to see what happens with this Japanese state visit. I've really been enjoying seeing all of these ceremonial events and all of the dress as well. This is lovely to see King Charles stepping right back into these roles. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Join me on Patreon, and you can now join memberships on my channel as well to get some future perks if you want to. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.